think we're recording. All right, how's everybody doing today? So, where to start? Second Wartime Address. Sorry, the first one did not get recorded, so we will, I think, recap a bit. And then we'll talk a bit about what's been going on more recently. A lot of exciting stuff. So last time we talked, we discussed the some of the roadblocks to some of these different parts of the Revest ecosystem succeeding, and we discussed the best path forward, which is going to look like the Revest eco kind of having its constituent parts kind of go off and do their own thing, have their own funding, their own teams, even who knows, but having some degree of independence from Revest. And we discussed, what that would look like with respect to Resonate a lot. We talked about how Resonate is going to be getting a really a complete makeover to really make it more applicable to what the market wants. We got a couple years worth of feedback on Resonate from everybody from retail investors to hedge funds to really big RIA funds, and we learned a lot about what it is we could be doing better with Resonate. And so taking all that information we got and even looking forward a bit to some of the, let's say, some of the newer kind of DeFi 3.0, let's call it, protocols that will be coming out here shortly. One of them, a very special one to this ecosystem, as it is, has been created by the former CEO and former founder Rob. And yeah, so Resonate is going to have a new life. It's probably going to be called something else. It's probably not necessarily going to sort of lead with the sort of Revest name, and that's really important because one of the big things that we heard over and over, not just from some of the hedge fund people, but especially retail, was just this confusion around sort of where Revest ends and Resonate begins, and that's understandable. And once again, sort of having everything under the same umbrella of Revest really really hurts your marketing efforts. It hurts your brand identity, and it was probably honestly, it was always the case that Resonate was going to be off doing its own thing one day. We just failed to raise on it, so that never happened. So the plan was never really to keep it under the Revest umbrella, but that is what ended up happening. So now the plan is really to correct that mistake and take Resonate to the next level. And that isn't going to look just like a name change. We are going to really completely change what Resonate does. It will still be a fixed yield protocol, but it will have a completely different approach, a more, let's call it, a more peer to pool model as opposed to a peer to peer model, but it is still an order book. It's really an order book becoming an AMM, which is a very unique proposition because right now there are competitors that are kind of doing the opposite. They're starting with an AMM and they're trying to turn that into an order book to get that kind of order book type capital efficiency. So we can really, I think, kind of one up them by taking an opposite approach. And So yeah, we're working on that at the moment. There's a lot of math involved. There's probably an EIP involved. It's uh, quite an effort, but that is something that we're aiming for. Uh, Probably looks more like Q3 or into Q2, but that is the plan with Resonate. And so, we have these other pieces too, like Redux, that we could talk about. So I think last week we or the other week we didn't. I didn't lay out too much what we were going to be doing with Redux because we had a lot sort of up in the air at the time. And over the holiday break, my big focus has really been on Redux and been on some of the some of the AI agent stuff that's been going on in the crypto world, just generally. I think some of you have probably seen on you know crypto Twitter recently that DeFi DEFAI is the kind of new DeFi and the new narrative and the new meta. And I think that it's probably right in a lot of ways that that's where all of this crypto stuff is ultimately headed. Um, and there's a lot of protocols right now that are trying to pivot to that kind of narrative. And it's kind of funny because Resonate, or I should say Redux, has been really doing DeFi in like one of the most interesting ways for really more than a year now. So this is really already a DeFi protocol. It's kind of funny, but we're gonna we're gonna showcase that fact, and we're going to be giving Redux a new life. It will not be quite the same setup as we have now, but a much more I think sophisticated one that's also cross chain, and one that's also um, let's say not entirely focused on human users as its customers. Now I've been working with our partner uh, Ryan, who might be able to join us later. We'll see. And the current team, we are working on at the moment a new venue for Redux, and that is something to expect in. I don't want to commit to a hard timeline, but in the very near future. This is not something that we're gonna have to. You guys are gonna have to wait, for Q3 or Q4. This is something that's gonna happen really soon, and there turns out to be a very kind of serendipitous uh, relationship with a certain platform on Solana that offers really a structure that's almost perfect for Redux to showcase its abilities and also not, really put the team in any sort of in a bad situation, let's say. So that's something that's going to happen really soon. Redux is still extremely good at what it does. Redux is, you know, it's basically we've only just now begun to really explore sort of expanding Redux horizontally, let's say, into other sorts of realms, and especially in DeFi, doing yield strategies, lend borrow strategies, arbitrage. Really, I would say that stuff is actually lower hanging fruit than being good at the trading itself, the delta exposed trading. So Redux can expand horizontally really quickly, and I think in doing so can become one of the most like credibly, DeFi and you have to clarify this. It's DEFAI every time you say it because it's the same. Sounds exactly like regular DeFi, but it's yeah, a protocol that can, I think, really hit all, sort of check all the boxes for people that are looking for something in that vein. So yeah, expect a lot of really exciting stuff to come out really rapidly in the next few weeks with respect to Redux. We've basically built, well, I'll just say we've created something that'll accompany Redux and will become part of like really a larger kind of agent slash DeFi eco. And I know some people have had some questions about exactly what's gonna, what sort of other accompanying pieces could come with that, and there will be something, for good reason I can't really spell it out exactly, but we will be, um, you guys will definitely benefit from, being a part of this community and being early to something that I think is really exciting. And this thing is going to have a separate life from Revest, sure, and it needs to for a lot of reasons that have to do with just marketing and brand identity, things that we've talked about. But it turns out that Revest tech is actually really useful to this whole DEFAI narrative. Uh, I've talked a little bit about it on my own Twitter, I think, and on the Revest Twitter. So Revest tech itself, with its three different types of locks. I'm sure a lot of you guys know about this, who have staked the tokens. With our between our value, time, and address lock, we can basically create almost any arbitrary set of parameters that can create calls and withdrawals and all this to our tech. And when you look into this DFAI world, one of the big problems is putting capital in the hands of an agent with a wallet can be a very treacherous thing, a very risky thing. If you're able to abstract away the ownership of that capital into a system like Revest, the Revest vaults, and you can place basically two different sets of permissions, if you will, two different sets of rights to that capital. One with, let's say, master rights, where the other is able to move things around and make decisions with that capital, but at any point the holder of the master rights can claw that capital back, or it can set up any really arbitrary set of standards or parameters that would make that capital do something on command whenever that parameter is hit. So that could be, say, like a risk profile, where if an AI is not doing what you expected it to do, and it's hit some risk parameter, your capital could automatically be kicked out. And at no point were you ever risking the AI, let's say, disagreeing with you and doing something on its own with your capital that you did not advise. And so Revest is actually really, really powerful tech with respect to this specifically. It's kind of funny how this turned out, but as the team looked more and more into this agent stuff, it turns out that Revest is actually really useful to anybody that's trying to control funds that an AI is managing. So there's going to be a lot of exciting stuff coming out with respect to Revest tech itself and how it can be used in this new eco that we're going to be launching. And so we're taking Revest with us in that way. So Revest will, have its name kind of distributed, but not everything will be sort of in this really messy way kind of placed under that single umbrella. So I think this is the path forward, and I think it's going to be really it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a really wild ride to see all the work that we've been doing for the last month actually come to fruition. So yeah, expect a lot of big news on that in the next couple weeks. We're going to be inviting everybody here to come use a new product that we'll be launching. That will probably, if you use that product, it'll probably be, there'll be some kind of reward for doing so. Let's say, and and yeah, we'll go from there. So I think at this point, I could probably end the main wartime address here. We've recapped everything. We've talked about where Resonate development is, what'll be happening with Resonate. We've talked about what we're going to be doing with Redux, insofar as we can talk about it. And I think at this point we could probably move on to the AMA. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop it. Let's see. Team's thoughts about AI agents. With the recent rise of AI agents, okay, I'm not going to try to read that out. Yeah, so we this is something that we're thinking about. Um, I don't want to just put an agent out there that's going to just slop up the timeline. I don't think that's productive at all. Uh, but it is something that we're working on, really honing in an agent. Really not that easy to do, really. A lot of it has to do with sort of how hard you're able to get the agent to think, and a lot of that has to do with pulling more inference. And we actually we'll see if Ryan's able to show, because we can really dig more into that, because that is actually applicable to some of the things that we're developing and some of the partnerships that we're developing on the Redux side of things. Yeah, so I don't think we'll be doing one right away. It is something that could happen though, as we, let's say, create the environment that allows for agents to be really honed in and really specialized at like emulating a certain character. But yeah, are we still planning a token migration? So I think I've said this before. There will never be a uh, Revest token migration. I mean, I guess you could never rule out us moving the token to Arbitrum or something along those lines. But I think when people think migration, they're really thinking about dilution or something like that. So there'll never be more than the 100 million Revest tokens that exist now, and we're basically fully distributed, which is not something that a lot of people know, probably because our Dex tools is it that doesn't show the proper distribution. But yeah, I mean, Revest is a fully distributed token. We don't want to mess with that. I think that that's a really great thing about the Revest token, is that they're pretty much all out there. There's a little bit left in the treasury, not much, and that's everything else is out there in the world. So we've got the fair distribution everybody seems pretty keen on. Is Redux going to have its own token? If yes, what's going to happen with a Revest token? What is the point of holding Revest? Well, as you know, Revest is pulls revenue from use of the ecosystem products. Revest itself, the tech that is, will, as I said earlier, has a future in basically becoming a kind of vault and permission layer that capital flows from users into agents through. And I will just kind of leave that at that. That's kind of the feature on the tech side. I think we also have the potential for, as I mentioned, launching a FNFT marketplace. I think that is going to be a really good match for Revest as a brand, being so focused on FNFTs and their, the things that you can do with them. I think Revest really, for the most part, being itself a FNFT marketplace, really makes a lot of sense. Maybe even that's like the natural progression of Revest as a brand. And the tech itself can have distribution in the all the various products that have been building on its technology. I think, so that no one forgets, we have a very well backed, well touted project that is building on Revest right at the moment, that is going to be launching in the near future, and that is something that you guys should keep an eye out for. We'll be definitely dropping some things in the Discord so that you guys can be really early into that. And Revest Tech will also have distribution with this new thing that the team is doing now with respect to Redux. So Revest has got a really bright future. It's got a much more clarified future, much more straightforward path to that future than it had before. And that's that has a lot to do with just breaking Revest down as an ecosystem and making sure that its products are not being kind of stifled by just being under this kind of confusing umbrella of Revest. All of these protocols, all of these, communities and what have you, they're all going to be referencing back at the end of the day to Revest. So I think that bodes really well for Revest. Revest is the progenitor of all of this. So we'll leave that there. And the first part of that question, I mean, I cannot answer that. Is Redux going to have? Okay, kind of pretty similar question already asked. Okay. Yeah, any more questions, guys? All right. Or if anybody wants to come up on the stage and ask a question, feel free to just raise your hand. Well, all right, guys. I don't know if Ryan's going to be able to make it, so I think we can just call it there. And, everybody definitely look out for some of the announcements that we're going to be making over the next couple weeks. There's going to be a lot of wild stuff going on. You're going to be seeing the kind of efforts of the last 9-10 months or so with the old team and what they've been working on. what we've been working on. I'm still a part of that, and yeah, we're really excited to kick that off and get you guys in early on that. And I think shortly thereafter you'll be seeing big announcements about what the new team has been working on. So yeah, just hold tight and stay active in the Discord, and we'll be making some big announcements soon. All right, I think that concludes the address. Everybody have a great day, and we'll talk soon.